And we'll move straight into our next two-way talk topic. And this one's actually quite close to Chris Anstey's heart specifically, but I feel like everyone's going to have something to say in our team. One of our friends of our show is The Basketball Show. You can catch them on KO. And there was something that they brought up on their show this week that we're going to talk off the back of. Have a listen to this.
Now, Shane, we've had a little bit of negative feedback on social media.
What?
A couple of perhaps bitter or ignorant people, you could say, sort of suggesting that perhaps you and the likes of a Chris Anstey and that kind of thing didn't really get involved or appreciate women's basketball until your daughters started playing.
Now, before we give you a chance to answer this one, Chris, because I know you've got a bit you want to say off the back of it, we were so thrilled that you were on SEN this week with the wonderful Sammy Edmonds and giving a little spruik to our show. But the good thing is you actually addressed this exact thing on that show, which was on air before the basketball show went live. So have a listen to the response that Chris had about why we actually do what we do here at Two Way Talk.
Hey, tell us, Chris, you've been busy with the Two Way Talk WNBL podcast you mentioned before the ad break. Tell us a bit about this.
Women's basketball and women's sport in general is something that I've been, I suppose, emotionally connected to even more in the last 6 or 7 years since my daughter has begun her basketball pathway. And the more you're involved in it, the more you realise they lack resources, financial exposure, just people talking about them. And when you get it, the evaluation oftentimes of our most elite female athletes is what they're doing away from the sport, not what they're doing on the court or in their field of play. So we wanted to get a podcast going where we highlighted them as professional athletes, spoke about what they were doing, critically analyse them as well. It's not all just backpatting and telling everyone how great they're going.
Yeah.
I think we need to shine a light sometimes, especially at the end, especially in a period of time when there isn't a lot of other sport going on, but we need to shine a light on how great the WNBL is, evaluate them, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm doing it with Mark Worthington, who a lot of basketball people will know, Candy Hertz and Nathan Strempel. So Two-Way Talk, join in. We'd love you to come and have a listen and support the girls.
So just so everyone knows, in case they weren't aware of it, this is a show that the four of us and our wonderful tech friend, Brad Gibb, decided to put together off our own bat. It's not like we've got anything commercial as yet behind us. This is something that we dedicate a lot of time to do a couple of episodes a week. And we do it for exactly what Chris was saying. So to have a tweet like that come out and to be addressed on the basketball show, Chris, definitely created an emotional response for you. Do you want to talk off the back of it about what you think?
Well, yeah, there've been more than one. And I suppose it's really easy. There are always critical tweets, there are critical comments, there are people evaluating your reason to do things. And as you said, the reason we do this, every game, the WNBL season this year is live on television. We can watch it. So we can shine a light. As viewers, we can watch every game. Of course, I've got an emotional attachment to women's basketball because my daughter Izzy plays. She's my absolute favourite basketball player in the world. I've coached her for a couple of years. But more importantly, I've coached women's basketball now for 4 years. The more involved you get into anything, you realise the shortcomings, the difficulties and the challenges that anything has, and women's sport is exactly that. But more importantly, I started playing basketball late. I mean, I came to the sport in 1993. And I walked into the old Albert Park Stadium. Ray Tomlinson was the coach of the WNBL team. Lindsay Gaze was the coach of the NBL team. To me, they were equal. And I'll throw an old school name at you. Emma Clements, who was one of the younger Melbourne Tigers players, remains one of my really close friends, and we spent a lot of time at the Tigers. Alison Cook was a superstar. Michelle Chandler was starting point guard. The Tomlinsons have been involved. I've known women's basketball as long as I've known men's basketball because I didn't grow up with the sport. But the ability now, having been involved in men's sport through my playing career, like I said, to shine a light on the WNBL, to shine a light on women's basketball competitions at lower levels, the NBL 1 competitions around Australia, the Big V competitions here in Melbourne. It's something I'm passionate about. Now, if my daughter's not involved and she's about to go off and play college basketball for 4 years, I'll still be involved. But I suppose, Wertho, I'll throw it back to you. Mate, you've got 2 sons and you're sitting here with all of us doing a women's basketball podcast. Tell me why you're involved. This might answer the question even better.
Well, I got involved with women's basketball at a really young age. My mum she's a basketball fan first and foremost, and one of the first memories that I have with basketball was not only the Perth Wildcats but the Perth Breakers back then, with Michelle Timms, Tully Bevilacqua, who was then Tully Cook, Marianne Vlahoff, that whole crew. I watched them just as much as I watched the Wildcats. And so I guess when I started my basketball journey, the Breakers were just as important as the Wildcats for me. I remember having a poster of the Breakers players, maybe because I had a crush on Marianne Vlahoff at the time. but I had a poster of the Breakers girls on my wall next to the poster of my Wildcats, which will be hard for a lot of people to believe, knowing who I am now. And then you go on your NBL career, and even while I was still playing for the Cairns Taipans, I was coaching the women's state league team in the QBL. I have a lot of good friends that come out of that still play WNBL, that are playing overseas currently, that have played WNBL. So I guess it's always been something that I've always watched all the way throughout my career. And to be able to sit here, give the women another platform to be spoken about, as Chris said on SEN, good, bad, critically, I think it just is another way that we can show our support towards us showing what we already knew, that this is one of the best leagues in the world that gets minimal coverage, and we're just trying to shine a little bit more light on a fantastic league.
What I will say as well, sorry, Nate, before you go, is that even back, and there's a lot spoken now about females getting into coaching in a male sport. Years ago, when Brian Goorjian was the head coach of the Magic and the Titans, we had Laurie Chiswick as our assistant coach, and I want to give a shout out to Laurie, who years ago, 20 years ago, set foot into a male-dominated sport. And probably not many people would recognise her as being one of the first female assistant coaches in a professional male league. So we've had female basketball people around us all our playing lives, and again, we love shining a light.
And I want to speak to this as well, and often I defer to the opinion of the dual Olympians that sit on the other screen next to us, but For me, as someone who grew up playing rep basketball, I think if you're any basketball that's worth their salt, you actually respect women's basketball as pretty early in your career. And I remember really clearly playing Division I rep basketball as an under-16, and we trained against the Adelaide Lightning growing up in Adelaide. That was where it was. And I remember so clearly my 15-year-old teammate, someone blocked a girl out of bounds and yelled at her, because that's what you do when you're 15, because that's what you see in the NBA. And Jo Hill, an absolute stalwart at the Adelaide Lightning over the years, already had a black eye she must have caught an elbow somewhere, and yells out, she goes, "Hey, number 50, you want one to match it?" And my teammate sulked over the bench and didn't go anywhere near Jo Hill or the paint for the rest of that training. But as a 15-year-old, you immediately like, these women are incredible athletes. I'm talking about a great Adelaide Lightning team that had Rachel Spawn, had Jo Kill, had Jay Kingy, Narelle Lindsay, Tracy Beattie. This was an incredible championship-winning Lightning team. I think Sam Woosnam was playing for the Lightning by that stage as well. And immediately I'm like, these women can play. And basketball, is unlike any other sport. You grow up as a junior and you're playing under 16 Division 1 on one court, and the court opposite, the under 16 one, girls are playing at the exact same time. Same platform, same spotlight. Probably hurt my attention span on my games. Too busy watching the other court. Probably hurt my career going where it did. And so I tour my girl out. I have a 4-year-old daughter sitting in the other room trying to poke her nose in here. But I have followed and loved women's basketball well before I was a father of a daughter. And my daughter may not be a Shyla Heal or may not be as easy Anstey as she grows up. Who knows? But I will love and follow this league and the incredible athletes that are in it, and anything we can do from our profile to shine a light on the WNBL athletes. And I've been involved with the league, commentating WNBL. I MC game days and events for Dandenong Rangers well before I was a father to a daughter. This is an incredible league, and it is a sad scenario in Australian sport that they have not to this point got the same attention that our men have. But I love the trajectory that the NBL is going on, and as we're seeing that getting more and more attention, and I really hope this season, and this is exactly why we passionately give our opinion on this league, because we'd love to draw more attention to what these phenomenal female athletes are doing ahead of the Tokyo Olympics, where they may well go and win our first ever gold medal in women's basketball at a senior level, which would be pretty exciting. So
I'll say this, Nathan. I'll say this. Chris and I have both been lucky enough to play at the highest level. Chris is a little bit higher than I have, but to be able to reach an Olympics, obviously there's a certain level of training that you have to do, which tests you physically, mentally, and all that. Since we've both finished playing basketball and gone with a career change, and both of us now coach, we've both done our fair share of individuals with players that are trying to make Opals teams, WNBA players and all that. For the average viewer to sit down and watch a game and to make a comment that they would be able to beat some of these people is absolute ridiculous. They have no idea. Some of the girls that have been through workouts that say, all right, put me through the ringer. Like, I want to, this one's got to hurt. And whatever you say, they just do it. No questions asked, no complaining. They work their ass off to get to the position that they're in. And it goes not only for women's basketball, women's sport in general. If you play at a professional level, you have to be unbelievably disciplined to where you're at. I'm fortunate that I have a partner that's in AFLW now, a different sport, but I hear a lot of comments about AFLW and how they can't do a lot of things. And then if you try and train with my partner, I guarantee you're vomiting on the side of the road because you can't keep up. And it's just goes to show that a lot of people have zero idea what these women put themselves through. We only, like most athletes, get to see what they do on the weekend, but the professionalism that they're at now and where they get their bodies, the way that they train, the way that they eat, all that sort of stuff, there is no way that the average Joe walking off the street can compare to it, because seeing it firsthand, I've got absolute admiration for all the women across all the sports and what they do. And like we said from the get-go, if we can just shine a little bit of light on the WNBL and the gem that it's been for so long in this world, then I think we're doing the right thing.
Thanks, guys.
And well said, both of you. And just one more little story, very short, that I'd like to mention as well. I mentioned Laurie Chiswick, and a little bit as well. This is, I suppose, showing how forward-thinking Brian Goorjian was back in the day. Shelley Gorman used to train with us at the Titans, and she was just one of the group. And when I say just, I mean she competed with us. Every drill we did, Shelley did. She was getting ready for a WNBA and Opals career, and we loved having her as a part of our men's team. And even from then, at a very young age, very early into my basketball career, there was that level of respect. Moving forward, and what I'll probably finish with my opinion here is that you're right, Wertho, we've both played for the Boomers over the years, and we're still seeking our first medal. And there is some sense of jealousy and admiration for what the Opals have been able to do. They're world class. They've won medals. They're on par with the best in the world. So we love covering it. We respect them like crazy, and we'll keep doing it.
Thank you, guys. All of you well said. And so on that note, to wrap up that topic, which we didn't intend to go that long, but I think it shows our passion to all of the athletes of the WNBL and let's say all of the athletes in all of our professional women's sports in Australia. Thank you, because full disclosure, a couple of us are girl dads. So thank you to the inspiration you are to our daughters and young daughters all around the country. We appreciate what you do.